blessed hadith of the beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, the permissible and the non-permissible are both apparent. They are both apparent. However, in between them there exists such matters of suspicion and doubts which we do not know. That we are aware as to which an action is permissible in Islam and which an action is not permissible in Islam, which an action is permissible and what is the action which is impermissible. For example, we do know that offering prayers is a farz act, while on the other hand, we know what is haram. For instance, drinking wine is forbidden in Islam. It is an impermissible act. So the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, stated that the permissible and the impermissible are both apparent to us. We know what is permissible and what is impermissible. However, in between them, there exists such matters of doubt and suspicion, which we should be careful about. So the person who safeguards himself from such matters of doubt and suspicions, the actions which gives rise to doubts and suspicions, and the one who safeguards and protects himself against these doubts, he has indeed safeguarded himself well. For instance, I remember a disciple of my Shaykh once came to Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Mohsini, and he humbly stated that, "Oh Shaykh, at first I used to offer the 5 daily prayers and used to recite Durr Sharif in quite a lot of comfort, and I used to be quite comfortable. I felt like offering the prayers and offering and reciting the Durr Sharif on the beloved Prophet, peace be upon him. But oh Shaykh, for some strange reason now, I do not feel the same level of comfort when I'm offering prayers, the same level of pleasure, the same level of comfort when I offer the daily prayers or when I recite the Durr Sharif. So I ponder as to what the reason is." And then my Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Mohsini, while advising that disciple of his, he referred to an incident of Hazrat Ibrahim bin Adham, a renowned saint, well recorded in the history. Ibrahim bin Adham has been recorded as a well-renowned saint in history, which perhaps I think Hazrat Hazur Data Ganj Baksh Rahmatullah Alayh, he has also referred him in his book, the well-famed Kashf al-Mahjub Sharif. I think he has recorded this saint in that book. So Ibrahim bin Adham was a beloved saint of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, who was engaged in the worship and remembrance of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala 24 hours a day. He was engaged in the worship and remembrance of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala day and night. He was that saint that due to the fear and pleasure of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he gave up his kingship. He gave up his kingship and walked onto the blessed path leading towards the pleasure of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And then there came a period in his life when he couldn't find pleasure and comfort in his worship, in his remembrance of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. 40 days had passed and he had this discomfort inside of him when he was engaged in the worship and remembrance of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. He went to many saints for prayers, but he could not find the solution to his problem. Then one day there was a person who told him that there is this certain saint who visits the Bayt al-Muqaddas, Masjid al-Aqsa at night at the time of the Tahajjud. You go visit him at once and narrate the entire account to him, as he may be of help to you. Tell him about your condition, that from the past 40 days you don't have the same level of pleasure or comfort when you are worshipping and engaged in the remembrance of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. There is something which bothers you inside. There is something which disturbs you, and it ends up and concludes in discomfort. So go visit that saint who visits Bayt al-Muqaddas, Masjid al-Aqsa at night at the time of Tahajjud, and narrate the entire incident to him so that he may be of help to you. He went there. Ibrahim bin Adham, he went to the mosque and laid down in the mosque in one of the corners of the mosque, and there at the time of Tahajjud, that saint did come. That saint did come with few murids. disciples of his which were accompanying him, that saint came to Masjid al-Aqsa at the time of Tahajjud prayers at late night, and when Ibrahim bin Adham saw him, he immediately went to him and told him his incidents. Ibrahim bin Adham greeted him. And who was that saint? Who was that saint? He was the well-renowned, the well-famed Hazrat Imam Hassan Basri. Hazrat Imam Hassan Basri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and Hazrat Ibrahim bin Adham told him his condition. Then he told Ibrahim bin Adham that exactly 40 days before from today, he bought some dates from a shop somewhere, from a so-and-so place. Did you buy these dates from a so-and-so place? Ibrahim bin Adham replied, yes. He replied in the affirmative that yes, O Shaykh, I did in actual buy some dates from a so-and-so place 40 days before. Hazrat Imam Hassan Basri asked him that 40 days ago you had bought some dates from a shop nearby, from a so-and-so place. Did you? And Ibrahim bin Adham replied in the affirmative, saying that yes, I did in actual buy some dates around that time, some 40 days ago. I did in actual buy these dates from some shop. So then Hazrat Imam Hassan Basri replied, so when you were buying those dates from that shopkeeper, some of those dates fell off from your bag into the shopkeeper's market, the place where all the other dates were being kept. As a result, you picked a date that was not yours. You picked a date which you had not paid for, and that was by mistake. That you picked up a date which you had not realized that it did not in actual belong to you, but it belonged to the shopkeeper. It was the property of the shopkeeper because you had not yet paid for that date. Ibrahim bin Adham was in doubt because he asked whether this happened, and you were in doubt as to whether that date belonged to you or not. So Ibrahim bin Adham again replied in the affirmative that yes, this did happen. I was in doubts at that time, as I was wondering whether that particular date belonged to me or the shopkeeper, and it was in that state of doubts and suspicions that I ended up putting that date which belonged to the shopkeeper in my bag along with the other dates for which I had paid for. My Shaykh says that Ibrahim bin Adham was in discomfort from the past 40 days because he was doubtful as to whether that single date belonged to him or to the shopkeeper, and this discomfort only surrounds those people who are wary of the permissible and impermissible, who are wary and attentive of what is halal and what is haram, the ones who don't care and the ones who don't understand the importance of halal and haram, the permissible and the impermissible. Such discomfort does not surround them. These are such saints of Allah that a single date ends up in discomfort for that saint for a significant period of 40 days. So it was in that state of doubt that he picked that date up and took it along with him in his bag. Imam Hassan Basri asked him if such an incident did occur 40 days back. He replied in the affirmative. Then Hazrat Imam Hassan Basri said that it was due to that act of yours that you couldn't find comfort or peace or pleasure in the worship and remembrance of Allah when you were engaged in the worship and remembrance of Allah Ta'ala. Now for a minute, let us ponder upon ourselves. Let us look inside of ourselves. We do not care about the permissibility and impermissibility of a certain action of ours. In today's time, there is havoc and chaos, and we don't realize the importance of halal and haram. We don't realize the importance of this, and it is due to this reason that then we don't feel like offering the daily prayers. We don't feel like engaging in the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala, because there is this one thing which we should not forget. There is this one thing which we should not forget, that us offering the prayers is a blessing of Allah Ta'ala, that He had granted us, the opportunity to worship Him, to remember Him, to worship Him, to offer the 5 daily prayers. It is a blessing for us and it is an opportunity for us. So such people who are not attentive and cognizant of what is halal and what is haram, then these are the people who do not offer the daily prayers, who do not find peace and comfort when they are offering the prayers or when they are engaged in the worship of Allah Ta'ala. So my Shaykh, my beloved Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Mohsini, he then advised his disciple Murid after giving him the example and narrating the incidents of Hazrat Ibrahim bin Adam. And then he stated that there must be something in your actions which is against the laws of Islam. So you should contemplate upon yourself that what is that thing which you are doing wrong and in a manner not prescribed by Sharia. So there is a person who takes bribery. There is a person who takes bribery. He earns lawful or he earns in an unlawful manner. He does not care about that. Surely, such impermissibility, such carelessness and recklessness would bear consequences. To access the same lecture in Urdu, please click on the link available below in the description.